Good evening, baseball fans. How you doing? We had a fun day today. We had some waiver claims happening today. Lucas Giolito heading to the Guardians of all teams. Harrison Bader, Hunter Renfroe going to the Reds. Josh Donaldson to the Brewers. Well, the minor leagues. Alex Verdudgo, Chaim Bloom having an interesting conversation last night. We got some call-ups happening this week with September fast approaching. Jasson Dominguez, Austin Wells getting the call. Ceddanne Rafael to my Red Sox. The White Sox making some moves in the front office. Welcome to Hot Takes. Let's get to it. And good evening, baseball fans. How you doing? Hello. Welcome to Hot Takes. Hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday wherever you are. Hope you're all having a wonderful week wherever you are. Man, I am ready for Friday tomorrow. I am ready for Friday. And actually, I didn't have work yesterday because our school district closed all the schools yesterday because of the hurricane here in Florida. I didn't get affected by the hurricane. I'm more in the central Florida area. And the hurricane went way north of us, but we had a lot of wind and whatnot. So when you're having a lot of wind, you can't really have the buses on the road. So in that case, you have to shut down everything. So I didn't have work yesterday, so it's kind of nice to have a day off. And yesterday, I took advantage of that time off. I worked on the Padres video that I uploaded last night. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I talked about what I think happened with the San Diego Padres this year. I broke down some numbers. I went into a few things. So go check that out if you haven't already. I do have another video coming out for this weekend. So be looking out for that as well. But as for tonight, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. I'm going to be honest with you. We got a lot to talk about. So I only picked one hot take for tonight. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't really seeing anything that was really too hot, in my opinion. I wasn't really seeing anything jumping out at me. I see, I always challenge all of you. Try and give me some good hot takes. I see a lot of this team's going to win the World Series. This team's going to sign this person in the offseason. I don't know. Those aren't really exciting to me. I need to see some juicy ones. I did see one, though, that actually ties to today. And I actually really like that one. And today was a pretty fun day in Major League Baseball. It used to be more fun, in my opinion, because you used to have the post-trade deadline where guys had to go through waivers. And if they got through waivers, you can get traded to any team. And any team that claimed that player, you could make a trade with that team. But now it's more you just put them on outright waivers and a team can just take that player. And today was the deadline for postseason eligibility. So I guess that's why you called it like the deadline today. So Lucas Giolito heading to the Guardians, along with Matt Moore, along with Reynaldo Lopez, Harrison Bader, Hunter Renfroe going to the Reds. Some interesting ones. I'll talk about those in just a little bit. But it was a pretty fun day. It used to be, in my opinion, a lot more fun. I'll talk about that in just a second. But everyone, thank you for stopping by tonight. Thank you for stopping by. Like I said, we're going to talk the waiver pickups for today and a couple other stories as well going on through Major League Baseball. So I'm seeing a lot of members here in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. I'm seeing moderators here. Thank you for stopping by. Caden Lichford became an all-star. Thank you so much, Caden. I do appreciate that very much. Everyone, I'm just going to dive into it here. Let's just get to it here. I'll go over sponsors and whatnot, maybe a little later on in the show. So let's actually get the music ready. Oh, man, I was almost perfect. Almost perfect, everyone. I almost had it all. I'm pretty well prepared for tonight's show. Pretty well prepared. I actually decided to bring back something I used to use in my shows, and those were the graphics. Remember the graphics I used to put? I kind of got away from those, and I'm going to start trying to bring those back a little bit. So here we go. I got the music ready for all of you. Let's get to it here. If my computer would like to load. There we go. Computer's on. So here we go. Let's get to it here. So obviously the big story of the day, waivers. Man, you gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love I love when guys are just on the move. What can I say? I love when the guys are on the move. Lucas Giolito, like I said, heading to the Guardians. That was a little interesting to me. Harrison Bader heading to the Reds as well. You know, very interesting moves. And this ties into the hot take that I picked for tonight. And that is simply from Mr. Chicken 1621, MLB should bring back the waiver trade deadline. I completely agree. You know why I agree? Because we had some monumental trades that happened by the old waiver deadline. If you remember, John Smoltz, he was traded to the Braves, I think, what was it, back in 1987? That was after the trade deadline. At that point, when he was traded, he was a prospect at the time, but John Smoltz ended up turning into one of the best pitchers of all time. Jeff Bagwell. My Red Sox traded Jeff Bagwell to the Astros. Look how awful that turned out for the Red Sox. You had David Cone. Remember the Mets traded him to the Blue Jays. He ended up helping them win a World Series in the early 90s. And then a more recent one, you had Jose Bautista going to the Blue Jays. That was after the trade deadline as well. And then you had the massive one with my Red Sox and the Dodgers back in 2012. Remember, the Red Sox had that awful 2011 season, or the awful finish to that season. And then you had the awful 2012 season. And then they made this. I remember this. I could not believe this trade was happening at the time. This one blew my mind. Remember when they sent Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, and of course the main piece in the trade was Nick Punto. Don't forget about Nick Punto. And in return, you know, they got a package of prospects. None of these prospects ended up doing anything for the Red Sox. At the time, some of these names were bigger name prospects. You had, James Loney, that was a bigger name at the time. Alan Webster was a decent pitching prospect. Ruby De La Rosa was a guy that could have maybe turned into something. Jerry Sands, but in the end, nothing worked out for the Red Sox, but they were able to clear payroll, and then they ended up retooling for the next season in 2013, and then they won a World Series. So, to me, yeah, I agree. I think we need to bring back the waiver trade deadline. I think that's just fun, So let's kind of get into today. How does this work today? So it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. So they actually broke this down on MLB.com. So where was that part? So how do outright waivers work? So when a player is placed on outright waivers, the other 29 teams have an opportunity to submit a claim for him. The claiming club assumes responsibility for the remaining money owed to the claimed player who is placed on his new club's 40-man roster. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You put them on waivers. If a team claims them, they can just take them. Right, that's pretty much all there is to it. Where the old way, you put a player through waivers, and if a team claimed him, they could work out a trade for that player. Or if they got through waivers completely, then you could work out a trade with any team at that point. So it's not like that anymore. They got rid of it back in 2019. That was another one that I forgot about before they implemented this system. Remember, Justin Verlander went from the Tigers to the Astros. That was another post-trade deadline, waiver trade deadline move. And look how well that's worked out for the Astros. Won the World Series in 17. Obviously, last year, he did go to the Mets this offseason, but now he's back with the Astros. So, hey, that was another one. Theorpo, $2 super chat. How you doing, my friend? Who wins AL Comeback Player of the Year? John Singleton or Sale? Out of those two, I haven't really thought about that, to be completely honest with you. Sale has just been too... He needs to have a full season. in my opinion. He just lost. He missed too much time. So Singleton's had a pretty decent year. I'm trying to think of who some guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I got to get back to you on that one, Theorpo. I got to get back to you. I haven't really thought about that one too much. So, Theorpo, thank you for the $2 super chat. But out of the two, I would probably, honestly, I mean, if you're looking at, Singleton, I feel like that's not the right one. Wrong one. There we go. Well, how's he been doing? Actually, well, no, I don't see. Goodness gracious. He has not really been doing anything. Do you mean this for this year? Or next year? I don't know about this one, my friend. He's not really doing all that much this year. I'm thinking of another player. Out of these two, I would probably say Chris Sale. So, yeah, I don't know about this one. Chris Sale, obviously, he's definitely been better than John Singleton. But I don't know. I got to think about who some comeback player of the year candidates could be. I'm going completely blank on some guys. But thank you, Theorpo, for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it, my friend. I will get back to you with a more solid answer next time, though. So, getting back to the moves that happened today. So, if we take a look here at the waiver priority order. So, obviously, it started with the Oakland A's. They're the worst team in baseball. Kansas City Royals. It goes by record. So, worst record gets the first stab, and then it goes upward at that point. So, you had to get through, a few teams here. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense for any of these teams, like near the bottom, to pick any of these guys up. Some people thought maybe the Padres could make a claim, but when it comes to the Padres, man, it's like, is there really anything left that the Padres can do at this point? They had their chance. But to me, the Padres, I don't know. They could have made a claim for Giolito. Sure. You got Musgrove and Darvish on the IL. That could have given you some depth, but, was it really worth it at that point? I think it could have been worth it a little bit for the Padres, but I don't know. Where it really surprised me, though, then when I thought about it, when I first saw it, I was like, really? The Guardians for Lucas Giolito? But then, when you really think about it, if I pull up the standings here, it's not completely out of the question. Remember, they got Noah Syndergaard. Caden Lichford, I'll get to your super chat in just a second, my friend. If we're looking at the standings here, so let's pull up the standings. We have the AL Central. And right now, Cleveland, while they are 64 and 70, they are still alive a little bit. 5 games back in the Central. It's not impossible. If they go red hot this month, anything's possible. And it's not like they didn't have to give up any prospects, obviously. Yeah, pay Giolito a little bit of money. Remember, they brought in Syndergaard. That didn't really do all that much for them. And, Giolito, it's going to be something for the Guardians. And, let's actually go pull up the Guardians here and taking a look. So like I said, the Guardians are 5 games back. They've had a couple injuries this year. Obviously, Bieber, he's been down. McKenzie's missed time. You've had the young guys, Williams, Bybee, Allen, Curry has come up recently. So now, Giolito, it gives them a veteran guy. He'll give you another 3 or 4 more starts. So, it's just a last gut effort for the Guardians, and I can appreciate that. They also added a couple of decent relievers, Reynaldo Lopez and Matt Moore. They're having pretty decent seasons overall. Matt Moore, I actually think, is one of the more underrated relievers in the game this year. If you take a look at his numbers overall, they're pretty solid here from the left side. Hey, you want to talk about, a guy, well, I guess last year, I think Matt Moore would have been more of a candidate for comeback player of the year. He was pretty bad in 2021, but then last year he was good for the Rangers. But Matt Moore is having a good year. 2.66 ERA, a 3.77 FIP. If we're taking a look at Reynaldo Lopez, this is the guy that was packaged with Lucas Giolito to go to the Angels. Are these guys just going to be together for the rest of their careers? We'll have to wait and see. But this is going to be another decent addition for their bullpen. It's going to add some velocity there. 3.93 ERA. 4.27 FIP. Really with Reynaldo Lopez, it's decent numbers, good velocity. Lucas Giolito, honestly, I'm not trying to be harsh here. I do think Lucas Giolito, in my opinion, I think he's a solid guy to have in your rotation, but I find him to be a bit overrated, in my opinion, because when you really look at the numbers, the ERA this year for him, it's been in the low fours, but his FIP has been in the mid fours, and now it's climbed all the way up right near 5. So a 4.94 FIP, that's not really anything amazing, and the xFIP is at a 4.48, right around the ERA. He's got a decent strikeout to walk ratio, but his home runs per 9 are pretty high, a 1.76. So, Lucas Giolito, it's fine. It's going to be an okay addition for the Guardians. It's going to be a guy that can give them a few more starts for the rest of the season. Can the Guardians get back into this race? It's possible. I don't see why they couldn't. Again, but they've kind of just been spinning wheels all season. Let's go take a look at the rest of their schedule here. And you know what? Actually, let me pull up the strength of schedules here. And I feel like the Guardians, they got a couple of decent matchups remaining. So let's actually take a look here. So Cleveland, they are right now right in the middle when it comes to the remaining strength of schedule. 14th overall. You got the Orioles left. You got the Rays. You got the Rangers, you got the Giants, you got the Reds for a couple, but you do have the Twins for 3. So they do have that one last series, and then you got a couple of easy series here against the Royals and the Tigers. Well, the Tigers did win today. That was a pretty exciting game today with the Yankees and the Tigers. You had Anthony Volpe with a 3-run homer there, but the Tigers ended up winning it in the 10th. But you got the Tigers, you got the Angels for 4, so... that's pretty funny. Giolito probably will end up getting a start against the Angels, so it's pretty funny if you ask me. But they have a chance, sure, especially if you do have one more series against the Twins. Nothing is impossible. For the Twins, they got a few easier matchups here. They got the A's, they got the Rockies, they got the White Sox, you got the Mets. They also have the Angels. Like I said, you got the Guardians for 3. You do have a few matchups here against the Rays, the Rangers, the Reds. But the Twins are a team that they have the talent on their team, but they just don't seem to really want to just take off, right? They haven't really taken off this year. They haven't really had that streak this year, or they got really hot. All right, they got maybe a couple of times. They had a couple of decent winning streaks, but the Twins haven't really done anything crazy this year. They just haven't really grabbed that division this year, and it's so the Guardians, I can respect the fact that they go out, make a couple of last-ditch moves, and see if they can make a run at this thing. You got one more month of baseball. Look at what the Mariners just did. The Mariners were just spinning their wheels for half a season, and look at what they've done over the past month, and now the Mariners are in first place. So it's not out of the question. They got some decent pitching here in this Cleveland staff. I really like the young pitching that they have in Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, and Logan Allen. I think that's great. And then you got a veteran guy in Giolito. I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but why not? Why not go for it, especially if you don't have to give up prospects? So I really did think when it came to the waiver order, I wasn't banking on the Guardians doing it. I kind of just felt like the Guardians sort of really just were not giving up on the season, but we're kind of just rolling with it. All right, let's just see how it works out. I didn't expect them to make any claims. I didn't expect the Yankees to. I thought maybe the Marlins could have made a claim, possibly on someone like Harrison Bader. I thought that was possible, but I really thought Giolito was absolutely going to go to the Reds. I really thought that because, the Reds, they've had some inconsistencies with their starting pitching. I thought they could have been a team that traded for Lucas Giolito. But I do think if Giolito got to the Reds, he would have went there. And I think they would have gladly, picked up a couple of these, relievers as well. Matt Moore, Reynaldo Lopez. So I think the Reds were, I bet they weren't very happy about that. I don't think really anyone saw the Guardians doing this. But when you look at the standings, it's not impossible. They can do it. Is it likely? No, but it's baseball. Anything can happen, really. So Let's take a look at the other moves that happen here. So the Guardians making moves. Let me click out of some of these tabs. I always hate how many tabs I have open. But you also had Harrison Bader along with Hunter Renfroe, another Angel, going to the Reds. And, the Reds, I'm sure they would have really liked to have had some pitching here. But in the end, they go out for a couple of bats. And let me actually pull up here the offensive rankings. I feel like the Reds haven't been too amazing with the bats lately in the last couple of weeks. If we're looking at WRC plus over the last couple of weeks, Cincinnati, they're 29th overall. They have been horrible offensively in the last couple of weeks. So I can completely understand why they would want to go after. Hunter Renfroe is more of a bat, but Bader does bring some energy to that team, and he's going to bring some decent defense out in the outfield. Hadn't really been doing much for the Yankees. I mean, really, has anyone been doing anything for the Yankees? Watch Harrison Bader hit 400 in the month of September. Watch. I wouldn't be surprised. Watch Hunter Renfroe maybe go after, a few home runs here in the final month. I think it's very possible, but, for the Reds, 29th in offense over the last couple of weeks, a 66 WRC plus. They definitely could use some bats, if you ask me. It's not going to be amazing offense by any means that they're adding, but hey, maybe these guys can catch fire. Let's see if they can do anything. Bader is going to be more of the defensive kind of a guy. Man, oh man, nothing is loading for me. Here we go. So Bader, he's not really doing much. He's got 7 homers this year. Remember, he did miss some time. He's only hitting 240 at 278 on base, a 76 WRC plus. Renfroe is going to be more of that guy that could be impactful. Remember with the Angels in the beginning of the season, he was hitting really well for the Angels earlier on, but he has slumped over the last couple of months. He does have the 19 home runs on the year, but his WRC plus is under 100. So I'm not really sure what they're going to be getting out of these two guys, unless maybe they're just going for like a last-ditch effort, because the Reds, they are right there. They're right there in that wild card race, so why not try and add, especially if it's not really going to cost you anything. So if we're looking right now, Renfroe, obviously this is a guy that you can just slot into your outfield right now, and then Bader's a guy that you can just put on the bench. So, especially because, remember, they just lost Matt McClain to a strained oblique. So I do appreciate the fact that they went out and did something here, especially with him getting hurt. India, he's been on the IL for a while. Votto's been dealing with some shoulder stuff here. Fraley's been out for a little while. So this Reds offense really could use something. So why not? Hunter Renfroe, I'm all about it. That guy was awesome for my Red Sox a couple of years ago. So I can appreciate these moves. I think they're pretty decent overall. There were a few guys that did not get claimed. And that was Carlos Carrasco on the Mets, Randall Grichuk. It felt like the Angels put everyone on waivers, and Randall Grichuk was the only one out of those guys that did not get claimed. You also had, who was the other one? We had, where's my link? I guess I clicked out of it. You also had Mike Clevinger. I thought there was a chance maybe Mike Clevinger could have gone somewhere, and he ended up not going anywhere. So, I don't know. Clevinger's having a decent year, so I was a little surprised about that. But, hey, in the end, didn't end up going anywhere. So, in the end, I think these moves, sure, why not? Why not? You're not completely out of it for the Guardians. The Reds, really they're right in the thick of things. And actually, let me pull up the wild card race here for the National League. And the Reds, they're a game out. It's not impossible. They're right there, 69 and 66. The Giants, they're kind of getting themselves together a little bit. The Diamondbacks dropped a couple of games this past week. So, the Reds, why not? Why not go make some moves? You got 1 month, a lot of baseball left, if you ask me. So, moving on here. Let's get to the White Sox. Speaking of Mike Clevinger, White Sox legend, let's talk about the White Sox here. And they actually made some moves as well. with their front office. Not really too much when it came to the players. They already did all their work at the deadline. But the White Sox did make some moves today, and they named Chris Getz as the new GM. The new GM. And, remember, they just fired Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn just recently, and they're making some moves. They're getting ready for that offseason. The White Sox got a busy offseason up ahead. So let's take a look here. Remember, Chris Getz, former major leaguer. Let's pull it up here. He's been with the White Sox for a bit now. Been with the White Sox, I believe, since back to 2016. He was the head of player development for a little while, and he's been the assistant GM in the last few years. So he did play 2 seasons with the White Sox in the beginning of his career in 2008 and 2009. He was with the Royals there for a few years. It looks like his best year, probably, man, I don't know. He wasn't very successful. Overall, the highest OPS that he had in a season was 672. So, these are the kind of guys where they end up being either, really good managers, or they end up being really good in the front offices. It's always those guys that end up not really being great players, but they end up bringing a lot more value down the road, either in the clubhouse or in the front office. So Chris Getz has been there for a little while. And also, I forgot to mention the Brewers bringing in Josh Donaldson, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But with Chris Getz, it's an interesting move. I can appreciate the fact that they're staying in-house. Jerry Reinsdorf, he tends to be very loyal to the people that have been there. And a lot of people were wondering if he was going to go outside the organization, obviously making a big move, firing Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, 2 guys that have been there for a while. So a lot of people were pretty surprised that those moves actually happened. And so a lot of people were thinking, okay, maybe they're going to go a little bold here. Maybe they're going to go outside the organization and maybe bring someone in. Remember, there were a couple of names that were coming up. Even Mike Rizzo came up as a possibility for the White Sox. So here we are. But they stayed in-house, and they just simply promoted Chris Getz to the general manager role. So they do have, or there are other former players that are general managers throughout the league. Chris Young is probably the most notable one with the Rangers. The Rangers have been scuffling lately, but overall, I think the Rangers have had a successful season. Sam Fold with Dave Dombrowski over there. Jerry DiPoto, with the Mariners. Obviously, they're having a great time as of late. Brandon Gomes with the Dodgers. So there are former players that are in these kind of roles. So for the White Sox, they have a lot of work to do. And the one good thing about the White Sox is they now have a replenished farm system where they can move forward. So that is a good thing that they addressed at the deadline. I thought they had a great deadline. I thought they did exactly what they needed to do. Obviously they traded away the guys they needed to trade, and Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, obviously, Joe Kelly, Reynaldo Lopez as well. So yeah, they brought in, I felt, some pretty decent prospects in the end. But they have a busy offseason ahead. And to me, the fact that they have now some more beef at the top of that farm system, I think they could be pretty busy this offseason. They could have a lot of guys coming off the books. I'm going to be very interested to see what they end up doing here with Liam Hendriks or Tim Anderson. I think it's very possible they don't bring these guys back. I mean, Liam Hendriks, I know there's a little sensitive. It's a little sensitive there, obviously, coming back from cancer. Tim Anderson, I do wonder if they end up bringing him back. I feel like there's a good chance he ends up being a free agent. But then I could also see them hanging on to him too. But I feel like the White Sox, they might just want to move forward here, really start fresh and just focus on the young core that they have with Luis Robert and obviously Andrew Vaughn and Dylan Cease there in the rotation. But you do have Grandal, who's going to be a free agent here, and Drews is going to come off the books as well. Clevenger will come off the books. He has a mutual option, but you don't really see those get exercised very much. I think Clevenger will go back out on the open market. But they have a lot of money coming off of these books, and I think it's very possible that they're very active out there in the market this offseason, especially now that you have a new person in place. I feel like every time a new person gets put in place, they start making moves, right? It depends on the situation. Obviously, when Chaim Bloom came in for my Red Sox, they kind of, go back to when Chaim first became the new president of baseball operations of the Red Sox, making the Mookie Betts trade. So, and every offseason, it's been busy, right? And other teams as well, bringing in, new people in the front office, new general managers, new president of baseball operations. You tend to be very busy that off season. So I think they're really just gearing up for this off season here. They definitely have to make a lot of moves because, if you're looking here, they definitely could use some upgrades. Obviously, you got Luis Robert. He's been great this year. Benintendi, love me some Benny Ball game, but it is what it is. He's just gonna be a guy there for the White Sox in their lineup. Yoan Moncada's been hot lately. Eloy Jimenez has been hot. So they do have a bit of a core to work with. Oscar Colas, he's gonna have a season under his belt after this year. So I expect them to go out there and make some moves. I do expect this for the Chicago White Sox. Like I said, the White Sox farm system is replenished. You still have a young core here that you can build around. So I think they're set up pretty nicely. Now, the one thing I do want to mention with the White Sox, if I were to kind of really, look at something that the White Sox need to improve on, I think, Chris Getz, this was a guy that was he was in charge of the player development. The White Sox, they have had some young guys really come up in the last few years. You've had Luis Robert, you've had Andrew Vaughn, you've had Dylan Cease, obviously. Garrett Crochet came up there a little while ago. He's on the IL right now. So, Yoan Moncada was another young guy for them. So they have had young talent come up over the last few years. And they have, obviously, like I mentioned, they got some fresh faces atop that farm now. But I feel like the White Sox, moving forward, sure, they can go out there and make these moves. But I feel like the White Sox really need to focus on getting more out of their farm system, right? And what I mean by that is, sure, the first rounders that you draft, right? Andrew Vaughn, yeah, that guy's supposed to be good, right? Luis Robert, that was a big international signing when it happened. That guy's supposed to be good, right? You brought in Yoan Moncada. That guy obviously was a former top prospect. He's definitely, scuffling here in the last couple of years, but he's looked a little better as of late. So, Dylan Cease obviously has worked out for them, but he was brought in through a trade, right? I want the White Sox to be able to get more development out of their farm system. And what I mean by that is get more out of those third round picks, get more out of those fourth round picks, the late picks, right? I think they need more of that in their system. Sure, you can trade for these prospects and you can bring in some of these higher ranked prospects and better international free agents like Luis Robert and Oscar Colas. And then you can obviously go out and then sign those guys too. Chris Sale was another one. He was a first rounder. But I feel like they need to just get more out of that farm, and I have a few examples here. Someone like Mookie Betts was a 5th round pick. Michael Harris, 3rd round pick. Spencer Strider, 4th round pick. Gunnar Henderson was a 2nd round pick, So guys that just aren't first rounders, guys that can contribute at the big league level down the road. Another first rounder for the White Sox, you had Tim Anderson, right? Remember, he was a 1st round pick. So I just feel like the White Sox, no matter what they do moving forward, they just need to get more out of their farm. They need to, I think, improve with the player development. And even, you could even go back to Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn really, he's definitely having his best season to date, but I feel like we need to see more out of Andrew Vaughn. Yoan Moncada's a guy that's really scuffled in the last couple of years. Eloy Jimenez has had a ton of injuries. Luis Robert too. So let's see if they can get more out of these guys moving forward, in their farm. That's what I do think they need to focus on a little bit more. So more news on the White Sox is where is the story? So Jerry Reinsdorf, he actually talked a little bit more today, saying that he has no intention to sell the White Sox. I feel like White Sox fans are not going to be very happy about that one. He ended up saying here to Paul Sullivan of the Chicago Tribune, along with Daryl Van Schouwen of the Chicago Sun-Times, he says, "I'm going to couch this so nobody writes that I thought of selling. Friends of mine have said, why don't you sell? Why don't you get out? My answer always has been, I like what I'm doing as bad as it is, and what else would I do? I'm a boring guy. I don't play golf. I don't play bridge, and I want to make it better before I go." So let's see. Let's see if these moves can make it happen for the White Sox. You know, White Sox fans, let me know. What do you think of Reinsdorf's comments? What do you think of the hire of Chris Getz into this role? Do you think the White Sox are looking pretty good, or are you optimistic about the White Sox future? Do you think they could go out there and have a good offseason? Let me know in the comments. So before I move on to the next couple of stories, let me catch up on some super chats here. Caden Lichford, you had a super chat, but I don't know what happened to it. It says message retracted. Caden Lichford, thank you for your super chat, but I don't know what you said, my friend. I don't know what you said. It's not there. I don't see it. Did we have another super chat? I don't remember. I am not seeing it. No, I think we're all caught up. All right, so let's move on here. Real quick, everyone. The like goal for tonight is 100. I'm seeing over 100 people in this chat. If you can, hit that like button for me. If you are new, think about subscribing down below. Share the show if you can. Hit the bell notification. That way you know I go live every single time. And anytime I upload a video, I will be uploading a video this weekend. I just uploaded a video yesterday. So go check that out after the show. And also, we are sponsored today by Underdog Fantasy. The promo code is HYDE. The link is in the description down below. I would love it if you all can help support the channel by just at least checking out Underdog Fantasy. It really helps support the channel. Go check it out here. So Underdog Fantasy, you got fantasy football coming back here all across the board. Obviously, football season is just around the corner. But if you're into daily fantasy, really go check out Underdog Fantasy. I've been playing it. I actually just did some pick'ems this past week. You can do daily drafts as well. I do like the daily drafts. I actually just drafted a playoff roster. That's going to be coming up in October. But I've been doing pick'ems, and I've had some success. I've been winning myself some bucks. And, hey, I think go check it out for yourself. I know a lot of you say you're the experts out there. Go see if you can go win yourself a few bucks. I think you could. But if I actually just real quick take a look at my results from this past week. So I did jump into a few pick'ems. I jumped into a couple of them, actually. I bet 20 bucks on a few. I ended up losing 40 bucks total on a couple, but then I won 50 bucks in another one. So the way pick'ems work is you can make up to 5 pick'ems where you can pick a statistic for a certain player if they're going to go higher or lower on that stat. So for instance, Patrick Mahomes, he's got a game up against the Detroit Lions up on September 7th. So Mahomes, that's the featured one. Mahomes, is if he gets higher than a half a yard, well, then you're good to go. But if we're looking at baseball here, if we're looking at a couple for tonight, remember, we got the Dodgers and the Braves tonight. That's going to be a fun series this weekend. But just a couple of pick'ems here, right? J.D. Davis, you could have gone, less or more than half of a total base. Mike Yastrzemski here. There's a couple of different ones you can pick there. Xander Bogaerts. And then we got some Braves here. Ronald Acuna Jr., the one for him tonight. Do you think he will get less than a strikeout or more than a strikeout? So there's a whole bunch of different ways to play. Like I said, there's daily drafts. Go check it out, everyone. Go check it out. So, again, the link is in the description down below. Use my code HYDE, and you get a double on your first deposit. So, up to 100 bucks. Here we go. Let's get back to the next story. And actually, real quick, let me touch on this because I skipped over this one by accident. Josh Donaldson heading to the Brewers. Well, not the Brewers' major league roster. The Brewers signed him to a minor league deal. And, it's funny because I remember when the Yankees, when they got rid of him, I thought, okay, what teams could end up signing Josh Donaldson? The first team that came to mind was the Milwaukee Brewers, right? But then again, it's like, a team might sound good in your head, but then they just never end up going to that team. They always just go somewhere else. But when I really thought about it, right, with the Brewers, they've had Andrew Monasterio come up, but he has been slumping a little bit lately. So he was pretty hot in the beginning when he came up, but he has cooled off. So, I think they're going to see if they can get something worked out with Donaldson. Maybe they can tinker with something there. Obviously, something wasn't working with the Yankees. He was coming back from an injury with his calf, and that's when the Yankees decided, hey, you know what? We're just going to move forward. We're going to go, give some playing time to some of the younger guys. So I think that was a good move on the Yankees, honestly. But for the Brewers, why not see if you can get something out of Donaldson? I think, honestly, Donaldson still has something left. I just think whatever it was with the Yankees, it just wasn't working there. It was very clear. The guy just looked like a lost player with the Yankees. So we had just seen how good he was with the Twins not too long ago. So let's see if the Brewers can figure something out with him, and maybe he can come up here possibly in the next couple of weeks. Remember, he is still working his way back from the calf injury that he was going through. So right now, where is he? I don't see him on here. Well, actually, then Fangraphs doesn't even have it on here. But I mean, I'm guessing this is going to go through. So he will be eligible to play for the Brewers in the postseason because he did join the organization prior to September 1st. So, and again, the numbers have not been great. He was doing really solid with the Twins there. He had over a 350 on base before he got traded. And then the last year of the Yankees, he only hit 222, had a WRC plus of 98. He had a strikeout rate of 27.1. That went up almost 10% from the previous year. Like, that's crazy. So, obviously, I think there was an approach thing going on. I think with the Brewers, they tend to lean more heavily into those analytics. The Yankees do it a bit differently. I think the Brewers will end up being a better fit for him. I mean, let's see. I would love the bringer of rain to bring more to the table, especially for the Brewers. And they could use a bat, too. So, speaking of giving minor leaguers more playing time, especially the Yankees, we got some call-ups this past week, and we had some notable ones as well. Jasson Dominguez, the Martian, has made it to the major leagues, along with Ceddanne Rafael for my Red Sox. I am rather excited about that. He looked pretty good here against the Astros in this past series. My Red Sox absolutely stunk against the Astros. The Red Sox season is basically over at this point. But when it comes to Jasson Dominguez, right, we all know the story here with Jasson Dominguez. Also, Austin Wells was brought up. But Jasson Dominguez is the name here. This is a guy that has been compared to Mike Trout, Bo Jackson. This is a guy, when you just look at the dude, he looks like a Martian. He looks ridiculous. He looks like an alien. The dude is just thick, right? And if we're taking a look here at how he's been doing with the Yankees, he actually has been pretty hot over the last month or so in the minors for the Yankees. He is the number 2 prospect overall right now for the Yankees on Pipeline. If we look at his overall numbers in 2023 between AA and AAA, so as you can see, his AAA numbers were through the roof through 9 games. Overall, on the year between AA and AAA, he's hitting 265 with a 377 on base. The slugging is low at a 425. He had 15 homers, 76 RBIs, a lot of strikeouts, 133 strikeouts, but he did have 83 walks. So, and he had 40 stolen bases as well. Jasson Dominguez definitely has potential, right? If you look at what he was doing in AAA, this dude was going bananas in AAA. In 9 games, he hit 419 with a 514 on base, a 581 slugging, an OPS at almost 1100. Right? He had no homers, but the guy was driving in runs. He walked more than he struck out. It was a small sample size, but he walked 6 times, only struck out 3. So, Jasson Dominguez, this is his shot here. Let's see if he can do something over the next month. and he could end up being a starter for the Yankees next season. They also brought in Austin Wells. Austin Wells, this is a guy that was drafted not too long ago, back in 2020. He was their first-round pick. He's a catcher. You know, he can go out there and maybe play some corner outfield as well, probably play some first base too. When it came to Austin Wells, we didn't see a whole lot of improvement in his AA numbers, right, from last year. Actually, his numbers in AA digressed from last year. This year in AA, he was hitting .237 with a .327 on base and a .443 slugging. However, his numbers actually got better in AAA. He was hitting .254 with a .349 on base and a .452 slugging and an .801 OPS, right? You know, he had a few homers there. Overall, he has 17 on the year. You know, Austin Wells, this is a guy that can end up being really decent for you, you know, down the road. Everson Pereira was a guy they also just brought up. He was mashing in the minor leagues this year, hitting .300 with a .373 on base, a .548 slugging. He has been getting some playing time here, 10 games, only hitting .114 so far, 16 strikeouts, 3 walks. But let these guys struggle. Let these guys go through the growing pains. The Yankees don't ever let these guys just go through these growing pains. Let them do it. Let them do it. It's okay to struggle, right? Get Oswald Peraza in there as well if you're the Yankees. Get all of the young guys in this lineup. I don't care if you put Jasson Dominguez out there for the rest of the season. I don't care if the guy hits like 100 over the next season or over the next month of the season. Let the guys struggle. Let them go through those growing pains. It's okay. You can let these guys struggle. But they obviously need to commit to playing these younger guys. They need to, right? Get Peraza in this lineup as much as possible. Keep Pereira in this lineup as much as possible. Volpe homer today. He came up with it. Obviously, he's been starting all year, though. My point is, let the young guys eat. Let them eat. I mean, shoot. I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't even be mad if they brought up, Chase Hampton. Chase Hampton's a guy who's having a decent year in the minors. You know, he's in AA. But whatever. I wouldn't even care if they brought him up. You know, bring up as many guys as you can. Really give some time here for the younger guys of the Yankees. You know, this is what Yankee fans, you know, if you're not going to be in contention, this is what you need to do. I'm not sure where is Jasson Dominguez. Okay, so he's coming up soon. All right, so he's going to be okay, so they're coming up tomorrow. All right, so yeah, be on the lookout for that tomorrow. But yeah, Yankee fans, listen, I know it's been obviously a bummer of a year. But you know what? Be happy about this. You know, be excited about, you know, Dominguez and Wells and Peraza. You know, this is the future of your team. I think this is a fun time. You know, you've accepted the fact that you're done. The season's over. Enjoy the young guys. You know, let's see what they can do here over the next month. So, you know, the Yankees are going to go out there in the offseason. You know, they're going to be connected with players. They're always connected with players in the free agent market. So let's see what they end up doing. Let's see. As for my Red Sox, we got to talk about my Red Sox here. Let me close out some tabs here. Bringing up Ceddanne Rafael. I'm very excited about this one. Very excited. Ceddanne Rafael, he's had quite the year with the Red Sox organization. He's been moving on up. He really shot up last year, and he's just kept on moving up this year. If we were to take a look here at the numbers with Ceddanne Rafael, Roman Anthony is also killing it in the minors. He had another homer today. My goodness, Roman Anthony. Chaim Bloom. The guy's just a wizard. He's a wizard. Oh, where are the Chaim haters at? Where are all the Chaim haters? I know, Red Sox season's over. So all the Chaim haters, they're coming out from behind the bushes when the Red Sox, when they were playing well there. All the Chaim haters were hiding behind the bushes, and now they're coming back out again. So, Ceddanne Rafael, he's been doing really well in the minors this year between AA and AAA. Overall, hit .302, a .349 on base, a .520 slugging. He had 20 homers, 79 RBIs, 36 stolen bases. The problem with Ceddanne Rafael, he needs to walk more. Goodness gracious. I can appreciate the aggressiveness, but these pitchers in the major leagues are going to absolutely exploit that, right? Unless he is really just that good, right? But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up in the major leagues. He has to be a bit more patient at the plate. Only 26 walks this year. 103 strikeouts. We got to get that under control. But he's a fun, dynamic player. Got a lot of speed. He's going to be great defensively out there. Let's see how Ceddanne Rafaela does over the next month or so. They're bringing up some other guys here. They did just bring back up David Hamilton. Bringing up, who was the other one they brought up? Wilyer Abreu. He didn't just get called back up, but he came off the paternity list. Wilyer Abreu is an interesting one for the Red Sox, and that actually kind of ties into my next story. Wilyer Abreu has actually been playing really well in a very, very, very small sample size for the Red Sox. He is hitting 353 so far in that small sample size, but in the minor leagues, he was actually hitting pretty well. Let me actually pull up Wilyer Abreu. So he is number 17 on Pipeline, but he was hitting really well in AAA, hitting 274, had a 929 OPS, 22 homers. So Wilyer Abreu, I think, is a really interesting player to keep an eye on if you are a Red Sox fan. And I think that also ties into Alex Verdudgo. I think that ties into Alex Verdudgo a little bit because Red Sox fans were very curious about this conversation last night. About 24 hours ago, a little over 24 hours ago. I know it's a very small image, but you have Chaim Bloom and Alex Verdudgo having a conversation in the field, right? Of all places. All right, Verdugo's in his street clothes, it looks like. Everyone thought Verdudgo was going to be going on waivers. Everyone thought he was going to be put on waivers. Here's my guess. This is what, because it's kind of like weird when you're seeing Bloom out there and talking with one of the players in the field, like not even in the office of all things. Like they actually just had a conversation right there in the open. But this is my thought. I think Chaim Bloom, if I were to guess, I think he was telling Alex Verdudgo, hey, listen, we haven't got a contract extension worked out. We haven't gotten anything yet. Not sure where we're going to go with it. We're still kind of looking into things, but we do have some younger guys coming up. We got Ceddanne Rafael coming up. We got Wilyer Abreu coming back. We're bringing back up David Hamilton. I think we want to give some playing time, for these younger guys to see what they have. So don't be bummed out if you're going to be, maybe not playing as much over the next month because we really want to see what these guys can do. Remember with Alex Verdudgo, he's definitely had some issues this year, showing up late to games, getting chewed out by Alex Cora. I think there's something there in the organization. I think there's a bit of a disconnect there with Alex Verdudgo. I'm not sure what it is. I know a lot of Red Sox fans love him, but I feel like there's something there where the Red Sox, there's something that's keeping them from really diving into, signing him to an extension. We obviously can love a guy, love a player, love the energy that they bring. We don't know what goes on behind doors, though, right? We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I'm wondering what the Red Sox think. I'm not saying Alex Verdugo is doing anything bad, but, obviously he's been in reports being late to games. Cora, not very happy with him a lot. I just wonder what it is. And they haven't signed him to an extension. He's going to be a free agent after next year. I honestly think Bloom told him, hey, probably going to giving some playing time to the younger guys. I don't think he told him this, but I do think they're going to look into trading him. I do think in the offseason, they're going to look into trading him. I think they're going to see if they can get some pitching back for him because they have these younger outfielders coming up. So I think Verdudgo, my guess is he's going to be traded. I think in the end, Verdudgo will end up being like that bridge kind of a player, right? He came in for Mookie. He's been solid for, this year. He had some troubles in last year. I think in the end, what he's going to end up being is just like that bridge to the youth, right? I know a lot of Red Sox fans might disagree with me there, but this picture was interesting. I was definitely curious about it. And one more guy here that has been called up is Ronny Mauricio. Ronny Mauricio. This is a guy in the Mets system. It feels like he's been in the Mets system. It feels like forever. I feel like I've been saying his name forever now. But Ronny Mauricio, this is a guy. I went to a spring training game this past year, and this dude hit an absolute tank. I was in line. I was getting chicken tenders, and my goodness, I heard a ball just crank off the bat. And I turn around and I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, there's a home run flying over the concession stand. And Ronny Mauricio hit an absolute blast. Overall this year, he's having a good year in the minor leagues at Syracuse, hitting .292 with a .346 on base, .506 on the slugging, 23 homers, got 24 stolen bases as well. This is definitely his best year overall in the minors. And this is exactly what the Mets need to do as well. Get this guy up. Get him some playing time. Absolutely. I love it. I love when these young guys are getting called up. I always think it's a great time. You know, see a glimpse into the future, especially guys that have just been higher prospects, higher ranked prospects for a few years. I love when these guys finally come up and you can see what they can do. So, what else do I got? I think that was it. I think that was it. Let me just double check. I always feel like I'm forgetting something. If I were to go actually one more guy that could get called up, I will keep an eye on Colt Keith for the Tigers. He's having a really solid year in the minor leagues. Only 22 years old at AAA. So far, in 46 games at AAA, Colt Keith hitting .300, a .372 on base, .539 on the slugging. He's got 9 homers. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy gets called up. He was a 5th-round pick back in 2020. So keep an eye out for that. Absolutely. All right. Let's get to it here. So we had a couple of super chats come in. I did see them pop up. What do we got? Oh, Caden Lickford. Oh, okay. So you got your super chat in. Caden, thank you so much. Will Felix Bautista miss the rest of the season due to his injury? I mean, what is going on here with Felix Bautista? I haven't really. Is there any updates on him? I mean, when you have a UCL issue, I mean, I think that's not very likely that he's going to come back, right? I think that's going to be a season-ending injury. I would imagine that's going to be a season-ending injury. When you got a UCL injury, I don't know, man. I don't think there's not really any updates. I don't think he's coming back. That's a tough loss, man, for the Orioles. You know, when you're looking at the standings right now, I mean, the East, I think the Orioles are going to be okay. I think they have separated themselves enough. Or maybe, well, you know what? I don't know. They have been slumping a little bit lately. Sorry, let me take that back. They had been separating themselves, but the Rays are playing good baseball lately. They're playing good baseball lately. And now, the Rays, I don't know, man. They're only a game and a half back here. Let me actually go back to the standings. 1 second. Let me see. 1 second, everyone. So, I mean, the Orioles haven't been, like, slumping, but they haven't been, like, that red-hot team that they were a little bit ago, right? The Rays are getting red-hot. So, could the Rays end up really taking this division back? I think a lot of people, you know, the Rays, I think a lot of people were kind of sleeping on them a little bit, because they kind of were struggling there and they were coming back down to earth, and you had the whole Wander Franco thing. But the Rays have actually been playing better since Wander Franco has not been on the team. So, I don't know, man. It's like, gosh, it's funny how that works out, you know, when you have like one player who tends to have a bigger ego and they end up leaving, and then all of a sudden the team just starts to play better. You know, we've seen this in the past. Is this happening with the Rays? I don't know, man. I'm wondering if that is something that's going on. Does the clubhouse just feel better in Tampa? Speaking of Tampa, I'm actually going to Tampa to go see my Red Sox on Monday. Labor Day. I have the day off, so I'm actually going to Tropicana on Monday. Pretty excited. But hey, listen, this division race is not over by any means. Absolutely not over. So the Rays are coming, man. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 4 straight. So I'm just saying. Taking a look here. But yeah, as for the Super Chat itself, yeah, I do think Felix Bautista, Caden, I think he's going to be done. Jared Cole, hot take. Bobby Miller will have an amazing September and steal Rookie of the Year from Corbin Carroll. Oh, could you imagine? Let's go take a look at the leaderboards here. So right now, I would imagine Corbin Carroll is the favorite. So let's just look at the rookies. So I don't know, man. I think Corbin Carroll is going to win this, but this is a juicy one. I do like it. 4.9 Fangraph WAR. Corbin Carroll. I mean, Corbin Carroll's having a season that looks like could be worthy, maybe in some years of like an MVP kind of a year. He's hitting 279, a 361 on base, a 519 slugging, 23 homers, 41 stolen bases. That is really good. Now, let's take a look at the leaderboards when it comes to the pitching. Bobby Miller, he's got solid numbers. 1.9 Fangraph WAR, 4.00 ERA. The FIP looks good. I think just because the ERA is in the fours, I don't think he really has a chance. He could end up having a really good month. He goes 4-0 the rest of the month or the rest of the season in September. Maybe brings his ERA down to the mid threes. I just don't think it's going to be enough. Honestly, I definitely think Bobby Miller could have a strong finish. Could Bobby Miller end up having a really decent postseason for the Dodgers? I think that's an arm to keep an eye out for. Bobby Miller is going to be really good, man. Really good. Speaking of the Dodgers, let's actually go here. Let's take a look at how the Dodgers and the Braves are doing right now. Breaking news. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in his own club. Ronald Acuna Jr. just made his own club. 30-60 on the year. That's incredible, man. Ronald Acuna Jr. We talked about this last week. I still think Ronald Acuna Jr. is the leader for MVP talks. I really do. I just think the year Mookie, no disrespect to the year Mookie's having, but dude, the year that Acuna is having, I mean, come on. Like, the fact that he has now made his own club a 30-60, that to me, it's like, that's kind of hard to, discount. I mean, you haven't seen that before. Acuna's having an amazing season. I do think this is going to be his MVP, personally. But the Braves right now are taking it to the Dodgers. And actually, if we go take a look at the National League standings, remember, this is an important matchup because seeding is an important thing when it comes to the playoffs. So if we're looking here, the Braves currently own the best record in all of Major League Baseball, but the Dodgers are 4 games back. If the Dodgers were to sweep this series, they could get themselves 1 game behind the Braves, and then you're looking at definitely an interesting month, an interesting few weeks left of the season to see who could get the number 1 seed. So right now, the Braves are looking good tonight. So I do think in the end the Braves are going to hang on to that number 1 seed. But this Braves the Dodgers, they're good, man. The Dodgers are a really good team. So, especially with all the injuries that they have with the pitching early on, this Dodgers team has really found themselves this year. They're a good team. This is a fun matchup. Great matchup. I actually want to see something real quick. I want to see something if something works for me. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. I want to try and introduce a new feature. Ooh, I think it's going to work. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Oh, actually, did I introduce this the other day? I think I introduced this. Let me see here. Here we go. Okay. Oh, awesome. I can do this during the game too. So everyone, look here. If you didn't see this, when we did power rankings the other day, I have live scoreboards. So we can actually look at the live box score. Right now, they're in the top of the 4th. Ronald Acuna Jr. having himself quite the game so far. 1 for 3, has the homer, 4 RBIs already. My freaking goodness. Mookie Betts has a hit tonight. What else is going on? Austin Riley's got a hit. Well, he's got a home run. Austin Riley with a home run. Ozuna's 1 for 2. All right, so, yeah. Dodgers, not really too much going on for the Dodgers as of right now. Muncy has the RBI. I'm guessing that was what was that? That was a ground out back in the 1st inning. But Ronald Acuna, Ronald Acuna Jr. had a grand slam. My goodness. Ronald Acuna Jr., this is going to be his MVP, in my opinion. I don't think he's losing that MVP. That's just me. But everyone, I'm getting out of here. I got to work in the morning. Just wanted to come on live, during the week like I usually do. Our main show is the Power Rankings show, but I really want to start beefing up the middle of the week show. To me, that's an important show, especially during the season, right? I want to always have like that midweek kind of update show. We got the off season coming up, and actually going over these news tonight, it's getting me ready for that off season. The off season, that's when there's not really like a schedule, right? You're kind of just going when there's news. I end up probably going live. Probably almost every single night, it feels like, in the off season. That's coming up pretty quick here. We got this month of September coming up, and then we got the playoffs, and then we're going to dive right into off season stuff. So pretty excited for that. And we'll be going live a lot during that off season. So everyone, I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. I'm going to wrap it up. If you can, on the way out, hit that like button for me. Hit the bell notification. That way you know I go live every single time. And anytime I upload a video, just uploaded a video yesterday. Going to be uploading a video this weekend. So hit that bell. Share the show for the people that weren't able to make it live. Subscribe if you are new. And everyone, don't forget, we are a partner here with Underdog Fantasy. Click the link in the description down below. Use my promo code HYDE. You get a double on your first deposit up to $100. Going to sign up with Underdog will greatly support the channel. Trying to do this full time at some point down the road. Could be maybe doing this full time, maybe in the next year. Really going for it, everyone. Really going for it. So if you can help support the channel by checking out our sponsor, I will love you forever. Everyone, I'm out of here. Go have yourself a great night. We'll be back here Sunday night for another episode of Power Rankings. Be on the lookout for the video that I'm going to upload this weekend. Have yourself a great night, everyone. Have a good Friday tomorrow. Have a good weekend. I will see you Sunday night. Have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.